Great. Hello, good afternoon. This feels so strange. I've got Pat Short's voice in my head going, is this on? Is this on? Is there anybody there? Anyway, hopefully there's a few of you there. And thank you so much for joining us on this, the first of what I hope will be maybe a weekly series for a while of webcasts in which I endeavor to discuss with my guest various ways in which we can try and stay sane during this whole kind of crazy time in which we live. I'm waiting a little bit because I can see people joining in. So I feel like again in the parish hall, come in, shove up there in the seats. There's loads of room for everyone. Come in. But anyway, as I say, the webcast is called How to Stay Sane in a Pandemic. And I thought it would be interesting just to explore some ways of doing that with some people that I like and admire. And I thought might bring something interesting to the table. But before we go into that, I mean, I don't want anybody to think that I'm kind of very Pollyanna about the whole pandemic, because we have been living, well, we're at the moment in our second lockdown, and I have a feeling it won't be the last, but we've been living a very restricted life since last March. And that's hard. And I think it's been hard on everybody. We are a nation living on a little rock in the North Atlantic that rains a lot, and we like to travel. And many of us have family living abroad, and that's not possible at the moment. We are a nation that loves to gather and to, share stories and to have the crack. And that's really not possible at the moment. And we love the arts, and we love our theatre, and we love, going to gigs and all that. And that's not possible at the moment either. So I think everybody's finding this tough. And then obviously there are people who are finding it extremely tough because perhaps they've been affected directly by the virus, and they may have lost somebody, or they've lost businesses and they are struggling financially. So I'm not in any way trying to say that this is easy. It's not easy. We're all finding it difficult in our own ways. But I think what we all need and what we crave, and I know what I crave, is distraction, things that will distract us, things that will take our minds away from where we are at the moment. So that's the idea behind this, is that what are the things that are distracting you and what are the things that you're finding kind of useful. So as you can see, beside me here is my first guest, and I am genuinely very grateful to her for taking the time out of her very busy life to join us today. My guest is Caroline Grace Cassidy, and Caroline is a friend, first of all, and she is also an author. She is currently working, I think, on her 8th book. She is a screenwriter who is also creative director at Document Films. Caroline, how are you?
Can't hear you, Barbara.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I am very good. I'm very good. Thank you for having me in your inaugural episode. So
on my inaugural voyage. Come here, before we get into what we're going to talk about, you do realize that Hollywood clearly desperately needs you. Have you any words to comfort us over the horror that we have seen in that trailer for that new Irish movie, Wild Mountain Thyme? Please. What's going on?
Oh, listen, it's it beggars belief, I suppose, that we still have that image out there that, people go and talk to donkeys in fields, and that Irish women only have red hair, and that they wear shawls. But the funny thing is, this will really sell in the American market. Americans will tune into this. It's been proven that this kind of thing, it does work, and it's not an Irish production. There's a couple of Irish actors in it, and Jamie Dornan's in it, who can't even do an Irish accent in it, which is really strange.
Jamie Dornan, seriously?
Yeah, it was in fact. It was a play years ago called, I think it was called Beyond Mullingar or Near Mullingar or something, and Deborah Messing, to give her credit, had the worst Irish accent of all time in that play. It was slated on somewhere on Broadway. I think Brian F. O'Byrne was in as well. But yeah, it's just awful to hear and to see. You're just like, nails down a blackboard stuff.
It's desperate. Yeah. So get your ass to Hollywood and sort them out. I mean, you could have a whole conversation with how America still thinks that about us, and makes you kind of realize then that we're not out of the woods when it comes to America at all yet, even though hopefully they will have a new president who's not quite as nuts as the current incumbent. Anyway, let's get on to business.
So before we go on, can I just tell your viewers that you have blackguarded me into drinking at 4:15 in the afternoon.
Shh, you weren't going to say that to anybody. That was going to be our secret. But yeah, cheers.
I have a dinner to cook. I have a dinner
Yeah,
to
well,
burn.
you know what? I bet you're a rubbish cook anyway. So obviously, if you've had a glass of wine, I think the chances of you cooking something edible might be much greater
But
than they would be normally.
But just what you were saying there, B, about, how difficult this all is. And it's
Yeah.
incredibly difficult. And just trying to find the distractions in the day and the little things, I just think that's so important to switch it up what you usually do. So to do something like this with a pal and be asked to drink wine at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I mean, bring it on. Bring it on.
I thought it was a good idea myself. One of the things that I have found to be really helpful in all of this is I mean, I was always a reader,
Yeah.
but I am reading way more now than I would normally do.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, I know obviously you're a writer, you write fiction, and you're obviously also then a reader as well. So do you find you're reading more at the moment?
God, yeah. During the first lockdown when we had that beautiful weather, I think I went through 6 books in a week. It's been 6. It's definitely been since I had Grace, my eldest, who's 12, that I've gotten through that amount of books. So yeah, it's just because I think you have headspace.
Yeah.
The positives of this horrendous world that we live in, and hopefully that we will be coming out the other side of, with the good news and the vaccine, is that your head has slowed down. There isn't. You're not running here. You're not running there. You're not taking on so many things. So you do have time, which is very interesting. You asked me about books. I've been rereading for the first time. So I reread the new edition of Patricia Scanlon's City Girl, which 30 years on is
It's not 30 years, is it?
It is, yeah. It's 30
Wow.
years since we first met Caroline, Devlin and Maggie. But I was reading it for a podcast with Ciara Garrity, who we were working on a podcast, and just the difference in that book 30 years on is phenomenal. I mean, there's grooming in it, there's coercive control, there's gaslighting, but all those things that didn't quite have a name back 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But I suppose the whole point of that is there's so many books that I loved, and I questioned during the first lockdown, why have I only ever read those books once?
Yeah.
Yeah. You love them so much, and yet you don't go and revisit them. So I revisited quite a few, I suppose.
Right.
So I read that. The other thing I'm a huge fan of, as you know, is our autobiographies. I will read anyone's autobiography. So from a sailor to a horse riding expert, anything. So I'm just about finished this, which is great. I loved. This isn't me, by the way. Does that look like me?
No, not really. No, definitely not.
So this is Matt Lucas, the comedian / actor or whatever, and
Bake Off presenter. Yeah, he co-presents the Bake Off now. Yeah.
Barbara, I'm a young one compared to you. I'm not watching Bake Off. I'm in there.
I was wondering how long it should take for you to get there. Yeah, not long. Not long.
I suppose I love books. I love reading success stories.
Yeah.
I love reading about people who sort of achieved in this industry, I suppose, within writing, acting, directing, that are kind of in the media, because it's not an easy business to succeed in. So I find anyone who's sort of made it, I find the journey along the way very educational, I suppose. So
would you recommend that Matt Lucas biography?
I would highly recommend it. It's really, really good. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. It's it's great. It's sad. It's very sad as well. His partner, he was married, and they sort of separated, and his partner committed suicide. So there's some really dark times in it. And then just talking about the journey of him and David Walliams, where they started from.
Little Britain.
Like everyone, it's like the Matt LeBlanc story in Friends. He got his last tenor. He was, that this was his last day in Hollywood, and he goes in to read for Joey, So it was a little bit like that with Matt and David Walliams. They'd done all the small shows in Edinburgh. They'd done the fringes. They just weren't getting anywhere at all. And then a new woman took over in the BBC, and she gave them a shot on BBC Three, and they ended up being, I think, Little Britain tour in 2008 was the biggest selling national arena tour of all time. And had that woman not said yes that day, they were packing it in.
They were going. Just shows you, doesn't it? Life is so much about chance. Yeah. So much about chance. And tell me then, so other than reading, do you listen to, what are you listening to? I mean, when you're in your car driving, because I know, and I'm probably more of a current affairs nerd than you would be,
Yes.
and I would always have the radio on. But again, I have found that during this pandemic, I reach saturation point so easily where I just go, you know what? I don't want to listen to the news anymore. So when you get in your car and you're driving in your car, or you're out for your walks, what are you listening to?
So I wasn't a big podcast person actually before the lockdown, nor was I a big walking person. So I'll attach the two together, I suppose. So just to sort of get out of the house and to sort of have some headspace, I started to walk, which I love. So I did start to listen to a lot of podcasts, but at the moment I am on episode 6 of what is it exactly right? It's the George Gibney podcast that Mark Horgan has done about the
Swimming
Olympic
coach.
Yeah, the swimming coach. It's fascinatingly done because what they do is they start out in Ireland and they're trying to find him. Basically, obviously he has multiple charges against him going back, to Chalky and to all these, these people's lives that he ruined. So, but what they do is they sort of get in cars and they're just recording as they go, and they go from Ireland to England to Florida. And so at the moment I'm on episode 6 now, and they've just sort of found him in Florida. But I think I find it a fascinating podcast, apart from the subject matter. And my Jesus Christ, I hope to FUCK that they get him and he serves time for the horrific crimes that he has committed. But also I thought this idea of this podcast that just isn't in a studio, that's kind of going around and you kind of get to hear the world as it's going on. I kind of like that. So I'm just finished that. And then the other one I listened to, my husband actually recommended, was Alec Baldwin's Here's the Thing. So he's really good. Did I not tip you off on that one?
No, you didn't.
Sorry,
you were saving it for this. Yeah.
So that's really good. He sort of interviews everybody and anybody, but a lot of people in the business, from sort of Sophia Coppola, people who you wouldn't normally see interviewed in magazines or on TV. He kind of gets the scoop on all those. So I'm enjoying that as well. Bill Burr.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm kind of going through a good few.
Whereas do you listen to music?
Music. Sorry. I used to just have my mixtape, which would be my 90s soft rock, bit of Whitesnake. Here I go again on my own.
And you put on your white boots, right?
Anyway, I love a bit of soft rock. So normally I just go around and then I walk faster when it's Van Halen and I slow down when it's Moody. But haven't been listening to as much music, interestingly enough. More podcasts.
More podcasts. Very good. Very good. Okay. And so what about then the other thing that people are, I think, desperately looking for at the moment is recommendations for TV or Netflix or Sky Movies or whatever. What are you watching at the minute? What are you hating and what are you loving?
I watched the other night the new Borat film on Netflix.
The new?
The Borat.
He's kind of, I never know whether, I mean, there's part of me that loves the fact that he's so out there and he just pushes the boundaries. But there's another part of me that always has an issue about comedy when it is just making a show of somebody, because I always think that's cheap comedy.
Yeah.
And I think the whole way that sometimes he just lures somebody into something ridiculous. Now, I know there was the whole thing with Rudy Giuliani, which, you kind of, I wouldn't have too much sympathy there. But in general, I find Borat, it's what I call that kind of cringe humor. It's kind of like uncomfortable humor. So how was the movie?
Well, it is, I mean, yes, there's still a lot of that. Well, the movie's great, by the way. It's really, really great. Sacha Baron Cohen is an absolute comedy genius. But like you say, he puts himself first and foremost in these sort of dangerous positions that, he's trying to catch people out, I suppose. It's the old fashioned, I'm going to catch you out. But there's some like fall around laughing scenes in the film. Like, I won't spoil it, but the only problem, I suppose, is that so many people know the Borat character now that he does sort of wear different disguises. So you kind of, you're taken out of that character, but he's played it for so long. But it's well worth, if you just want to sit down tonight, have a laugh, and just tune out of everything. That's really, really good. I love
Is that on Netflix, Caroline? Do you know, or where is that?
It's Netflix. On Netflix, yeah. I think it's been on Netflix for a couple of weeks now. And it's really, really funny. But so I'm watching that, and The Queen's Gambit I finished. Did you watch that?
Wasn't that just magnificent?
Wow.
And again, very often when you watch something, I remember thinking this, well, about the Bake Off, but particularly about Gogglebox. But The Queen's Gambit is another one that I'm thinking, the person who had this idea, I mean, you and I have pitched ideas all over the place. But the person who had that idea and thought this is going to make a great movie, I mean, it's so different. Very often, as you know, when you go to
Yeah.
pitch something, the whether they're a television company or radio, they want to know, or even a book, what is it like? In other
Mm.
words, there's very
Mm.
little risk taking, I
You're
think, sometimes.
comparable. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, these aren't like anything else. Like The Queen's Gambit in particular is very unique as a movie, but beautiful, or as a
Oh,
series.
yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's so hard for creators to go into a studio and say, this is what I'm thinking, because like that, you can't say, oh, it's like Gogglebox or it's like whatever.
Yeah,
So, studios have obviously taken a risk on this, but boy, did it pay off.
yeah,
Boy, did it pay
it's
off.
really
It's just
beautiful.
beautiful. And anyone who hasn't watched it, God, I envy you. Sit down and pour yourself a glass of wine and just Anya Taylor-Joy in it is sensational.
Is
So
she's the
that's
main actress, presumably?
yeah, she's the main actress.
So understated. Like she's so beautiful an actress. I mean,
Yeah,
I know in a former life you were an actor as well, but like she
get
was
my
just
Oscar.
so beautifully understated, wasn't she, as an
Yeah,
actress?
I mean, absolutely. You sort of talk about great actresses who you just really you fall into the parts with them, like Daisy from Normal People as well. I think sometimes the actress just completely encompasses the part, and I think in this she
Yeah,
has. But it's stunning. The whole production is stunning, so that's great. So I'm
yeah.
watching that. I have to say, I'm still in my kind of pandemic head that I'm still dipping in and out of things. I kind of like light stuff. I think probably because I belched back up CNN News last week that I just couldn't possibly fit any more news in my head. So I do stuff like comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld.
Do you know I tried that once or twice, and it's the same as what's that other one that everybody says is Schitt's Creek?
Oh yeah, I
And
didn't
I
see
tried
them.
that as well. And I was like, have I lost? I mean, I think I have a sense of humor. And I'm sitting there going, this isn't funny. I don't. The comedians in cars getting coffee, I was a bit like, do I have to
Yes.
go in a good few episodes?
Well, I suppose what I do is I would sort of go scroll through and see who I like. I mainly hit the female comedians, to be honest, because I know less about them. So, you've got Amy Schumer in there, Tina Fey, you've got some really good female comics that you wouldn't get to know so well. So
Yeah.
I like that. I suppose I like just being able to dip in and out of shows and not be
Yes.
too committed to having to go back, because I just think you want lightness in your head. So you don't want
Yeah.
to be stuck
True.
in anything too heavy, I suppose.
And you know what's starting back this Sunday, don't you?
What?
The Crown. Did you watch The Crown?
No,
No.
no,
Well, now the
I know.
last series wasn't great, but the first two were brilliant. And I'm
Right, don't
really
watch.
looking
Yeah, I
forward
will.
to this.
I know, and I do. I think what happens to me when I miss out from the beginning, it tends to take me a while to catch up. But I mean, to sort of go back. But I will. I would
Oh, and
definitely.
Caroline, start from the beginning because honestly, the first two seasons of The Crown I thought were magical, absolutely magical. I thought the
Right.
last season lost its way a little bit, but I'm looking forward to this one because obviously me being much older than you, as you've said already, like I remember like the whole Diana years and all that kind of stuff. I'm really just can't
You
wait.
remember? You remember Queen Elizabeth, the one?
I remember Queen
Victoria.
Victoria. Yeah. Oh. Anyway, okay. So leaving all those recommendations aside, I said at the top of the webcast that we as a nation, and I know this because I'm married to an Englishman, it was one of the first things he noticed when he came here that we love to travel. Irish people love to go abroad and to travel. And at the moment, we obviously can't do that.
Mm.
So, do you spend much time in your own head dreaming about where you could go or where you will go? I mean, taking it first of all, when we're allowed out of the bloody county we live in. Where in Ireland do you miss? Where have you missed not being so far this year? I know what your answer is going to be, but obviously the audience doesn't. So tell us, starting with Ireland, where in Ireland do you miss? What you're
So
saying
I
now?
suppose
Go away.
okay, first of all, I'm not as much a traveler as you are. I'm quite a home bird. I'm not as good at traveling, I suppose, as you, jumping onto a plane to Australia like you're going to Tesco. But I severely missed the Galway Film Festival this year.
I
The
knew you were
Galway,
going to say go away. Yeah.
Galway. Like even Kevin, my husband, calm down, Caroline. It's only a film festival. But for
You're
me,
not a bit predictable.
yeah, but it embodies so much more for me. It's my mid-year. I kind of take
Yeah.
stock of the work I've done, and it's a networking thing, and you sort of meet like-minded people and you discuss where you're at and what funding is coming up and what projects. So there's a whole other aspect, I suppose, to why I love it. And also, obviously, it's great crack, and, you drink loads of pints and you only get 2 hours sleep. I miss that. I kind of miss being able to just the freedom of doing that.
Yeah.
The other thing I miss, obviously, my parents have a little place in Nerca in Spain, which, we go to a lot and bring the kids over, and that's really chilled out. But in saying that, when you were posing this question to me, it has made me think a bit more about, I should probably get out and see a bit more of the world, when you're suddenly trapped in. So I have a real go to go back to New York. Real good for New York.
And I think America now, I mean, when Trump was president, now he still is president until January. But I mean, as soon as he took over, I was like, that's it, America, you can stay over there. I'm not a bit interested in you when you have him in the White House. Not that it would have made a real difference to you as a traveler or as a tourist in the United States. But I do think, I mean, and I saw it a lot on Twitter over whenever it was last weekend, lots of people saying, great, I can now go back to America, that the mad fella's on his way out of the White House. So,
no,
I think,
I mean, but wasn't it funny how, our little, like you say, our little island here, and I know we have great affinity with America, and so many of us are in America, but Jesus, wasn't there some sense of relief when he was pushed, when he's gone? Like, I mean, it really felt like it was a personal thing for me. I was like, oh my God, thank God, the world has some sort
well,
of...
it's like when somebody in your family that you're very fond of suddenly goes a bit kind of, out there, goes a bit racist. And I know you can't really be a bit racist, or goes a bit homophobic, and you're like, what? And you suddenly think, but this is America. And I mean, again, certainly in Ireland, I think we always thought of America as being, the bastion of freedom and equality and modernity and of opportunity. And suddenly you're kind of going, actually, it's a hotbed of madness. But I don't think, I mean, in fairness, I don't think we're out of the woods yet, because he ain't going to go without a fight. And
no, sure, he's putting up things for marches on this Sunday. Wants people to mind. Yeah, so it's, I mean, we still watching CNN, though. I was trying not
so,
to.
Caroline, mind yourself. Don't be going off to New York now until you know that it's safe. I wouldn't like to think you're only a little one. You'd be, you could get into all kinds of trouble. Do you think? Exactly. You mentioned the fact that before the pandemic that you didn't walk very much. Would it be fair to say you wouldn't be a huge kind of gym bunny or a huge kind of like exercise mad kind of person? So is it walking, and what else have you started to do during this pandemic that you hadn't done before and that you're glad you're doing now, or maybe you're not glad you're doing now?
I suppose I am. So first of all, no, I've never been a member of a gym, or I've never done, gone running clubs or anything like that. And the walking was purely to get out of the house and just kind of have my own headspace. So I will most certainly keep that up, and I would never have sort of done that before. The other thing I think I've had time, I suppose. Okay, so your question was what hadn't I done before that I will probably keep in future? I think I will keep my head less cluttered.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think I will have I've got more of a sense of I was doing too much. And it's funny, actually, Emma Hannigan, our good friend Emma Hannigan, who's sorely missed, she had sent me a message not long before she passed away, in fact, within the sort of days just before. And she sort of said something to me like, please slow down, you do too much. And I was thinking, what do you mean? Like, because I love what I do. I'm in a really privileged position, believe you me, I do it because I want to do it. But I did just think, actually, you are doing a little bit too much, because I just didn't stop. So when I kind of had the time to just do that walk for an hour and stop, it's something that I have taken from this whole pandemic, and that I will certainly make a little bit more room in the head. And I'll buy new runners.
You're going to buy new runners?
Yeah.
You were posting photographs of Instagram of your runners, and they really were shockers. Oh, great, you have them there. That's lovely. Thank you, Caroline. They're lovely. We're going to set up a GoFundMe page for Caroline.
If anyone wants them.
We're going to set up a GoFundMe page so Caroline can go and afford to buy herself a brand new pair of runners.
I'd love
that. Is there anything else then? You haven't started making sourdough or banana bread or anything like that?
Baking me arse. No, I haven't started baking. I did it with the kids for the crack in the beginning, but no, haven't started cooking, haven't started baking, haven't done anything that I kind of didn't do before, really. Have I now? Hold on. No, I haven't. No. No.
And for you, I know you work in document films, you go in there and use the offices there a lot, but you also work from home a lot. So I suppose much the same as myself. So I suppose that on a day-to-day basis, it's nearly easier for us to forget about the pandemic because we're in the same environment as we would normally be anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody was going into an office every day and is now at home every day, it's a much bigger kind of change and a much harder thing to deal with, because I think there is and you might tell us a little bit about this, because I think there is a real knack to being able to work at home. It took me an awful long time to actually be disciplined enough to go, especially when you're not working for a boss, you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
To not kind of hear when the dishwasher is stopped and go out and empty it, or, look that the rain is coming and go in and I'd still take in the washing. But there's quite a discipline involved in working from home, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I suppose, and like you say there, we are in that privileged position that not that much has changed in our work days. That it's still sort of, you got to force yourself to work. I was always that way. No one was saying check in now at 10 o'clock. So, but for people who are used to going into an office and now suddenly you're here and you've husbands walking around and there's things going on, I can imagine how difficult that is. But I'm very strict. Like, the kids will go to school and I will sit down at the computer, and this place could be in a bomb. Now, obviously, Kevin would have cleaned it before he's gone to work, but and he'll have put the
honestly, that man is going to be sainted when he dies. Absolutely sainted. Carry on.
But anyway, so I would be really strict. I would work until 1 o'clock every day, and even from a creative point of view, if I'm not feeling my storyline going on, I will put words on the page, because that's my job. Like, I will sit there and I will type, and I will put something down before I leave for the day, because I really focus on it and think of it that's my job. If I only have 1,000 words, I can't get up until I have 3,000 words, and even if they don't make any sense, I will put them on the page.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, tell us a little bit about the book you're working on.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I'm joking.
Do my best here for you, Caroline.
You're very good. So I'm on my God, yeah. When you said that I was on my 8th, I can't even believe that. It seems
I know
so fast since I did the first one. So my 8th one will be published in April 2020, and that is called The Unforeseen Love Story of Lexi Byrne. So
April 2020.
2021. Sorry. See.
Yeah, good woman.
2020. I'm stuck in 2020.
This is what happens when you're in a pandemic. Time goes backwards.
Actually, I wanted to mention one. I'll do that in a minute. But yeah, so sorry, that will be at my 8th one, and then I'm working on my 9th one, and it is coming slowly, I should say, but it's fine. I'm tipping away at it, and I sent the first few chapters off to my agent the other day, and she was very encouraging, as she always is, Jernicle. And so I'll keep working on that. I'm working on 2 screenplays. So yeah, there's always something going on, and you're always doing funding applications, or you're always, there's always work to be done, I suppose.
And dinner to cook, and
wine to be
washing to put.
And then I'm working on that podcast with Ciara Geraghty, which we're really
Yes, that's what I was going to tell us what the name of the podcast is. I know it's kind of the first episode is still out there, isn't it?
Yeah, first episode is out. So it's called Bookbirds. So it's on Spotify and Acast and anywhere you find your podcasts. So the initial idea, sort of Ciara had the initial idea and brought it to me, was to look at books that we sort of had read, the books that we loved. Her thinking behind it was the fact that we are in this precarious situation, and you just kind of want comfort. You want a book that you love. You don't want to be disappointed. You don't want a horrible ending. You just want it all to be nice. Yeah, that's true. So we're doing Sharon Owen's book for the second one, but we can't get back into the studio because of the whole pandemic thing. But we'll keep it going. We're just doing one a month. It's something that we both enjoy. We have written a screenplay together called The Quiet Woman, so we're in the midst of trying to get that out and about. So yeah, it's kind of, I love to do stuff, like this with friends that I enjoy as well. I think it's really important.
Collaborations.
And especially, Barbara, can I say, when you asked me, to be your first guest, I thought, God,
here we go. Brace yourselves. Yeah, here we go. Go on.
That's so nice that, she picked me to be her first guest. And then you said, yeah, because I need a guinea pig. not even like as if You shouldn't have said, Willie, yeah, great, because I need a guinea pig.
Well,
So,
what I meant by that, in fairness, was I am so like a cow with a gun when it comes to this kind of technology, in that I've only half a clue. And I must thank actually Barbara from Well Expo, who gave me a lot of help.
brilliant.
But I still only have a vague clue. So I needed somebody that I wouldn't be mortified if the whole thing went pear-shaped and sat down in the middle and they were just waiting around saying, what the hell is going on? And I knew that.
Is that because I am the friend who you once let lie in a skip very drunk one night and take pictures of me?
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. That was a long time ago. That was an awfully long time
when
ago.
we could handle the booze.
Yeah, true. Absolutely true. Can I just actually, while we're talking just again about books, I've just finished reading, where am I at here? I've just finished reading Anna McPartlin's book, which is Below the Big Blue Sky. And it's the follow-up to The Last Days of Rabbit Haze. And again, if somebody's looking for something that's kind of very easy to read, and you can fall into this mad family of hazes, and it's dealing with the aftermath of Rabbit's death.
Brilliant,
if you read the original book. So I finished that the other day. So just to mention that, it was one that again I really very much enjoyed.
Is Caroline, you've been reading?
Sorry?
Is your mammy still reading during all?
Oh, she is. Yeah, thankfully, yes. My mother, who's probably watching, Harry and Ma. Yes. Myself and my mother would have a very similar taste in books, which is actually really, really handy. So if she enjoys a book 9 times out of 10, I will enjoy it, and vice versa. So we exchange books backwards and forwards at a great rate, and she's a great reader.
Start this next. I just want to say I'm starting Keelan's.
Brilliant.
Yeah, have you read it?
And I think that's up for a book award, isn't it? They're looking for people. I think Miriam is championing it, Miriam O'Callaghan, and I think they're looking for people to vote for that in the book awards. I haven't actually read that yet, but it's on my list to read. What I've also just finished, and it's not for the faint-hearted, is Mary Cassidy's Beyond the Tape. And the publisher sent this to me because, I mean, I would be very squeamish, but I find her a really interesting woman anytime I've heard her interviewed. And I think anybody who does her job is just, so it's, there's parts of it you speed read over because it's a bit like, oh, be Jesus. And I'm not sure it was the best book to read before you go to sleep.
No.
Because you would have very strange dreams. But if you're in any way interested in criminology and in the work of a forensic pathologist, it's definite, and it's easy to read. You'll fly through it in a second.
I really want to read that. The next one then I want
to read
is this one. Have you read hers?
Oh, yet? I have that.
But I have that, and actually, on you.
Sorry?
Do you think I'd ever make a president?
Do you know, Caroline, your day will come. Your day will absolutely definitely come. I have that one, and actually I think the Dublin Book Festival are doing a free public interview with her online, obviously. This weekend, maybe Friday. So look that up on Dublin Book Festival. Tickets are free, and again, if there's nothing on the telly, you could do worse than log on and have a look there. Anyway, I said this would be about a half an hour, so we've just gone over the half. See you, Caroline. I'd like to thank the guest. She's got to get more wine. No, seriously, thanks, Caroline. I knew you'd be great, and you were great, and I really appreciate your suggestions. And what I will say is that I will tweet out all the suggestions, the books and that we mentioned, and the programs in this. I will put out a tweet about that a little bit later on when I've recovered from the stress.
Well done, and best of luck with it. I know I, for one, will be tuning in as many as you do, because you're brilliant at what you do. So, well.
Thanks a million. And I really hope that if you're watching this and you have an idea as to somebody that you think would make an interesting contributor, an interesting guest, let me know. Let me know your feedback. If you thought it was shit, let me know it was shit. No, don't let me know it was shit. I don't need to know it was shit.
Let me know it was shit, and I can tell her it was shit.
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
tell my mom to tell her it was shit. So.
Exactly. Caroline, thanks a million. Continued success in all that you do. And I'm dying to see you, and hopefully in December we'll get together. Thanks everybody for watching, for dipping in and out of this. I hope that it's worked. I hope it's been on all the platforms that I tried to put it onto. And I'll be here again, please God, if I can twist somebody else's arm, I'll be here again next Wednesday at 4:15. To explore more ways to stay sane in this pandemic. Until then, mind yourself, stay safe, and wash your paws. Bye.
Bye.